Hi. Excellent. Looks like we're all set to go. So, thanks, Mash, and thank you to everyone who came out here today
All right.
for
Excellent. Looks
the
like we're
ARPGME
all set to
Marathon.
go.
Thank you so
So
much for having me.
thanks,
I'm
Mash, and
Novaura, and
thank
I'll
you
be
to
running
everyone
Final Fantasy
who
XIV
came
for you
out here
guys. I'll
today
be
for
playing a
the
variety of
ARPGME Marathon.
dungeons,
Thank you so much for having
specifically
me. I'm
the
Novaura,
Light
and
Party
I'll be
dungeon.
running Final Fantasy XIV for all of you guys. I'll be playing a variety of dungeons, specifically the Light Party dungeons featured in the game's 2.0 version. Light party dungeons typically mean a dungeon will have a party with a tank, a healer, and 2 DPS. But a few years ago, the people at Square Enix made a patch update that allow you to run a dungeon with fewer than 4 players if you so desired. So in this case, I'll be running on my own. And before we get started, I should also as well point out you're probably listening to some music that's not from Final Fantasy XIV. It's actually from Final Fantasy XV because the game currently is doing a special promo event with Final Fantasy XV, which means you can also get to wear, among other things, the outfit worn by the lead protagonist of Final Fantasy XV, Noctis. So yeah, hello to everyone who is watching right now, and also as well to everyone, if there are any Spanish speaking people in the audience right now, happy Cinco de Mayo to you guys. Hope you're enjoying your day, hope you have a wonderful time. So, for the game of the Final Fantasy XIV run that I'll be doing, I'll be playing on the Red Mage class, which is considered to be the most overpowered class for doing solo runs in this game. And so we'll be starting by doing a level 15 dungeon and working our way up to the level 50 dungeon, and this will be played with my Red Mage at the current maximum experience level in the game, which is level 70. So we're going to go ahead and get started on our run here. We'll select undersized party. This will allow me to do all the dungeons solo. So we'll be starting at the level 15 dungeon Sastasha. Time will start when the words duty commenced appear on screen. That is when I will have first control in the dungeon. So let's go ahead and get into it. So yeah, a number of abilities you'll see me over the course of the time we're doing will include the core ability, as well as displacement. Those allow me to do my dashing. So this allows me to do some really cool abilities and kill everything really fast. Since I am at level 70 and I'm going through a level 15 dungeon, a lot of the enemies will die in one hit, which will make life a lot easier for us. But basically what we want to do is try and do as much what's known as kiting. This will allow me to pull all the enemies to where each mini-boss section and each final boss section is. This will allow me to really get some good moves going. Now that I've pulled everyone to this area over here, I can start really spamming my group attacks. Yeah, use them, get them used as quickly as possible. So now we are going to deal with the first of 2 RNG elements in this run. The first is with this coral that we see. Since we did not correctly choose which of the coral formations needed to open a particular button that allows us to access the first mini-boss, we got dust with poison and had to fight another enemy. But we did get the second one correctly, so that allows us to hit that switch, which allows us to kill this guy. Take care of the big cat. Yeah, you may have noticed we are killing a lot of animals right now. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are Super Metroid fans, secretly, even though this is an RPG marathon, who are like really satisfied with how we're killing the animals. So Captain Madison here, he's the leader of the pirate crew that runs this cave. We can't kill him, unfortunately, but we can take it out on his lackeys for sure. Alright, let's go ahead and start leveling, getting everything set up. And we'll go ahead and take this key, which we do require. Bring these two over, kill them. Then we'll go ahead and just dash right into this guy and take his key. So now, yeah, you may have also noticed as well, we do have a sprint ability as well. But yeah, you'll see the Contra 6 ability that I'm using quite a bit in this run. It really helps out a lot. So now, time for Captain Madison round 2. We don't need to worry about his lackeys right now. We're fine with what we got. And we want to chase the captain all the way over here. And now we get to fight the real final boss of the first dungeon. Basically this game's version of the Zoras from Final Fantasy, or not Final Fantasy, but The Legend of Zelda. Sadly, these guys don't sell you flippers at 500 rupees or give you a sapphire in exchange for their hand in marriage. There we go. 1 dungeon down, 12 more to go. So next up is the Tamtara Deep Crofts. So Tamtara Deep Croft is interesting in the fact that this place is one of the first dungeons that really works with the game canonically, because of the fact that this place is got a reputation for being associated with how Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 was introduced and how it all unfolded. Because I'm sure that for a lot of you are probably aware that the original Final Fantasy XIV was the Sonic 06 of its time, and that because of it, there was a lot of problems with the game, and so Square Enix, thankfully though, saw the error of their ways and decided to do something about it by basically taking the opportunity to take the page out of more Legend of Zelda, in this case Majora's Mask, by basically saying, you know what, let's just drop a moon on the world. And so that's exactly how they did. They symbolically ended Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 by dropping a moon on the world, which led to this place being home to a bunch of people who think that that particular moon was their salvation, as it were. So they formed a cult, and now they run this place pretty viciously. So I really need to kill this Acmena Varla here. That's the mage of this particular dungeon. And there are a few of them that we will have to be dealing with as we go along here. So now we just want to run over here and start the fight. And so yeah, you'll see me doing a lot of kiting in this run. Oh, this guy held out, but we can take care of that quite quickly. Yeah, you'll see me really collecting the bodies here. And whenever there's an opportunity to kill anything that's in our way, we will take it. Yeah, good thing that those Acmena varlets were right next to each other. That was very helpful. Yeah, the more of them I can kill, the better. So now we'll just have everyone follow me. And we'll use our Swift Cast ability, which will get everything out of the way in a hurry. Swiftcast is really an insta-cast ability, because normally playing as a mage, I'm forced to do everything as far as spell casting while stationary. Because if I am moving around at all, then my spell cast is cancelled out. Thankfully, though, Swiftcast does allow me to circumvent that. Oh, that was quite a kill of enemies there. Yeah, you may have also noticed as well I'm touching all these orbs. It's in order to allow us to gain access to the final boss. And it's important that I kill this final boss in one shot, because if I don't, then he gets an invincibility courtesy of some imps that'll show up. But thankfully, not a problem. We got it. Down in one hit, and away we go. Alright, so now we go to what is unquestionably the longest dungeon of this run, Copperbell Mines. There are two reasons why this is such a long dungeon. One is the fact that it is literally long. You have to cover a lot of ground in this place, but also because of the fact that the two mini-bosses are unique in that they require very specific mechanics that take a very long time to do. So this place is more tedious than anything else. Yeah, as far as our casual run is concerned, like, this dungeon is pretty fun to do because of all the elements, but for speedrunning, it is just so awful. Yeah, it's probably, as far as speedrunning is concerned, the worst dungeon that there is. So the faster we can get through the mechanics associated with the bad guys at the end, the better. Yeah, also if there are enemies that aren't going to get in our way, we won't bother fighting them. Ah, awesome, I got them. Yeah, I was trying to see if I could get all those guys together, and we did. Oh, yeah, this guy's pretty scared. He's trying to run off. There we go. So now, for the required mechanic of this dungeon, the fire sand. We gotta use it in order to blast open our path to continue onward. So if we go over here, because we need 2 fire sands. And then, like any old school mine, we gotta put it in the powder chamber and then activate the trigger to get it going. And boom goes the dynamite. And so here we go. Our first boss is not really a boss as much as it is an enemy gauntlet. We gotta just keep fighting off a whole bunch of random little enemies that come our way. And they're all on a fixed timer, so we have to wait for them to arrive. Yeah, since they are on fixed timer, that's where the tedium really starts to be a problem. And that's why this dungeon is so bad for speedrunning. So now they're going to start to multiply in numbers. Yeah, these brigands are cute. In fact, they are actually used for this game's special event associated with Easter. Because the game does do special events throughout the year to coincide with various holidays. And Spriggans, being that they're little bunny bodies with ears and very tiny arms and legs, get a lot of love during the Easter-themed event, which just finished a couple of weeks ago. But when they're not doing things like holding Easter eggs, they're causing a whole lot of chaos in a place like this. Yeah, so I also need to kill off these bombs that show up. Alright, that should be the last of the bunnies, the last of the Spriggans. So now we have to wait for one more flambeau. And now we get the last enemy to show up, which will be a Minotaur named Kodos. But I have a little extra special for him. The moment he hits the ground, I can backflip off him and I'm free to go. Saves a couple of seconds. Can I get them both at the same time? Yes. Yeah, because of RNG, it's not always easy to get the enemies you need to be killed grouped together. But when it does, it's so helpful. I'm going to take advantage of something I currently possess. Go ahead and launch into these guys. Yeah, I need to pick up the fire sand, but I also need to get these enemies because they won't allow me to touch the fire sand until I finish them off. Oh, they're so close together. Can we make this count? And thankfully we did. And if you can get in a situation where you don't have to deal with extra mechanics, the better. Alright, hit the trigger and away we go. Off to our second mini-boss, who, under normal circumstances, we would not be doing this the way I'll be doing it. This XIV here, when you're doing it with a normal light party, what happens is that he cannot be damaged as effectively as I'm damaging him here. And you have to use the blasting devices that are featured in this dungeon to weaken him, you have to use the blasting device to bring out a bomb, and that bomb is then used to damage this guy. So we want to get him close to dead, but we don't want him actually dead. Because now here's where we bring in... Uh-oh. Crap, I moved too soon. Ah. Yeah, I've never done that, where I prematurely moved before the bomb hit. But yeah, we need the bomb to come out. And now that it has... Get everything come over here. Because now XIV splits into two. So I need to keep my focus on XIV himself, or itself in this instance. The blaster cap split in before. Now we'll bring everything over here. But yeah, that was what happened. There was just a slight lapse in judgment there. But what we can do is we can get over to the blasting device quickly by backflipping. That brings out another bomb. Now what we have to do here is await a Spriggan who's actually going to try to attack the bomb, but we don't want it to attack the bomb. We want it, the blasting cap intact, so that it'll do what it just did before, which is this. And that'll split it into 8 pieces. And then once it's split into 8 pieces, you can actually damage it normally. You can't damage it normally otherwise, but because of the way that we're doing it in this run, we can. And we're free to go. So now it's all a matter of getting to the end. Gonna do some more kiting. And it doesn't matter if the enemies follow us, because of course we'll be killing them once we deal with the final boss in this dungeon. Which they may call him Gygus the Great, but because I'm so overpowered, bam, dead in one shot. Let's go ahead and kill off everything else. And there they go. They're all dead. And we're free to go. Yeah, as you can see, it took 8 minutes to do that dungeon. You won't see any times anywhere close to that in this run other than there. Alright, off to our next dungeon, Halatali. So yeah, the worst of it is now over. The worst dungeon is now over, and we can now get into some dungeons that are a little more fun. So here in Halatali, we have a dungeon that is actually the first of 6 dungeons that are optional in this run, but because they're within 2.0, we are going to be doing all of them. So yeah, there are some enemies we can intentionally ignore, and some we do have to fight because they'll be in our way. Yeah, it's important that I get rid of some of these enemies so that they're not giving me a hard time later. And I need as much of a head start as possible in order to deal with this first mini-boss and hope I can one-shot him, because if I don't, I'll have to deal with all the enemies that were kiting me from in this first section. Thankfully, we did one-shot him, and we can move on to an area which is our second area that is RNG dependent. So we need to activate these chain winches, and when we do, one of 3 things will spawn. What we're hoping for is either a treasure chest or a bomb, because if we get lightning sprites, we do have to fight them, but if we get anything else, we can ignore it. Alright, so we got a bomb, but we can use it to backflip to get myself a little further distance. So yeah, that worked out very well for us. I think these guys are too spread out, yeah. Now we'll have to let everything come in. Go ahead and hit the chain winch again. It's a treasure chest, we can move on. Because yeah, the lightning sprites will just chase you around otherwise. So it's better to just deal with them right away. Because like I said, you need to interact with the winches. Now if we're lucky, we will not have to worry about this last one. Yeah, it's another bomb. No need to worry about it. We can ignore the enemies on the left, and we can make our way over to the next mini-boss, who normally would be something we would have to deal with him because he likes to go stay in the water and make himself invincible by generating electricity. He has that kind of ability. And when he does, you can't harm him at all, so thankfully we damaged him enough that we could one-shot him and we didn't have to worry about it. And we got another set of enemies we can ignore, and we can just go straight to the final boss. It is an interesting category for this game because of the fact that I hold currently, as it stands right now, over 50 IL world records in this game, either on my own or shared with other players. And the reason I'm doing this category is because of the fact that I also hold an unofficial world record for any percent of about 15 hours and 45 minutes. And because of that reason that we're not doing any percent. So since pretty much every world record in this game is for an IL, that's what we focus on. And as it stands right now, like I said, I currently hold over 50 IL world records in this game. So something we're going to need to deal with in this run are the Magitech photo cells, which have to be used in order to make the mini-bosses appear in this place. So away we go, and we're gonna have to collect 4 in each section of these photo cells. only once we've collected 4 does that allow the mini bosses to show up. So I'm going to hit you, and then we're going to ignore this guy. We're going to get this guy to come my way. And get the photocell, kill him, and we're free to go. Yeah, don't worry, we will get that other louse that's coming my way in a moment. There we go. So yeah, here's the terminal where the photocells have to go. That spawns the boss, who dies in one shot. And we also have to put the photocells in here anyway, because that will deactivate this force field, which will allow us to move on. So now we're not picking up the photocells randomly. We have to extract them from enemies we kill. So I'm gonna have these guys chase me for a while, and I want them to go to very specific spots. Alright, around the corner. Yeah, we'll get the prison pudding to follow me. Yeah, a lot of enemies you'll see are influenced from previous Final Fantasies, like the puddings are the various slime enemies from Final Fantasy IV that could only be damaged properly if you use magic on them. Alright, so now that we've gotten to the spot that we want everything to be in, go ahead and stack everything up. Yeah, the cells are actually in the way. They're actually working against me here. But yeah, I need the pudding dead in order to get these cells. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, there's a lot of restrictions on the official category because of the fact that you're not allowed to use any experience buffs. This was something that when I set my unofficial world record, it was before there was a proper set of rules established. And so when the admins created the rules for doing 80%, one of their biggest rules was no experience buffs. Which is why the current 80% world record is closer to 25 hours than 16. Alright, so now we're into the final section of Total Rack here, this particular dungeon, and now we have to start trudging through slime. Oh, this slime just slows you down a lot, and it can be really frustrating. Because you have to not only deal with it, but you're also going to have to deal with the enemies that will be spawning too. Yeah, it is possible if you're lucky enough to be able to get the stuff to spawn behind you, or to be able to backflip off it. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get rid of those guys. Alright, so now here's where the speed element's really gonna come in. Need to try and stay on the non-slime path as much as possible in order to build myself enough of a head start that I don't have to worry about the enemy that is currently tailing me. Alright, so open the door. Ah, he got me! Well, I guess we'll just have to deal with that. Yeah, wasn't able to stay ahead of him enough. So yeah, he's got to go down. Thankfully, there are some enemies like this, the mites, that we don't have to worry about, though. We can just carve our way through them as we get to the final boss. Alright, there we go. And then we can just one-shot the final boss here, Grappius. And I know what you're thinking, like, you're one-shotting a lot of these bosses here. Well, once we get past the next dungeon, that will change. Alright, off to our next dungeon, Hawk Manor. The typical haunted house that you would find in any video game that's like this. But yeah, Hawk Manor is one of those dungeons that's also canonically associated with the game due to the fact that the final boss here is one of the few that has an actual legit backstory that's fleshed out pretty nicely if you take the time to follow the lore as you're approaching this place. So one thing we will need to get out of this dungeon are keys, and we will need a lot of them. Yeah, they're going to be needed primarily for getting rid of some of the obstacles that are in our way, because we will need some tiny keys, but we'll also need some color-coded ones. Alright, so we'll use this key to unlock this door, and we're free to go. Now turn the corner, and we can just make a mad dash to the first mini-boss. Get rid of you. And if we're lucky, we can get rid of you real fast. And that's all she wrote for that one. Yeah, we got through so quickly, the intro music didn't stop playing yet. Alright, so little trick here I'm going to use, jumping off to the side intentionally, hopefully to get this, but Sally, no. Yeah, if you're lucky, the enemies will be far away enough that you can be able to get that key without them noticing your presence, but it didn't quite work out that way this time. Yeah, the RNG positioning can really have an effect on how well you do here. Yeah, enemies can be set up in just the right way that it works out for you, and then there are times when it just doesn't. Yeah, because chances are you will not be able to kill every enemy that's in a pack at once. Even if you have a ranged spell or a ranged attack, chances are you're not going to be able to get everything done at once unless they are all coming after you. So now pick up this key, because we needed it, because we had to go to the left because there was this big roadblock in the way. So we had to go take the scenic route in order to get to that particular yellow key that we needed. So now let's start hitting these guys. 2 shots and they're done. So now we have to pick up the Jester's bloody parchments. And we now have to use our return ability, which is what you would normally use to go back to a home point out in the outside world in this game. But you can also use it to go back to the start of dungeons, which in the case of Hawk Manor is a necessity. So now we take the parchment that we used to deactivate this barrier, and then we'll go ahead and run up the stairs. Say hello to this Manor Sentry, and force him to open the door to the final boss with tragic backstory, Lady Amandine, but like so many bosses before her, she's one-shotted. But like I said before, that is the last one-shot final boss we'll be able to do. After that, we will not be so fortunate. It does not have a fishing minigame, no. It does have fishing, yes. You can do fishing in this game. Yeah, it's not like Breath of Fire where you can do fishing minigames. Alright, so next dungeon is Brayflox's Long Stop. It's only one of the more unique dungeons of this game. Definitely got a lot of fun elements to it, especially for speedrunning. Oh wow, this Galago just would not get out from behind the tree. Yeah, that Galago is positioned in such a way I could not be able to attack him. But we do need to interact with this guy, because he gives us the key we need. And then we need to get everything else over. So once those enemies are all dead, it's a very quick trip to the first mini-boss. Just held on! So, yeah, we'll teach him when you are able to just barely hang on what happens. Alright, don't have sprint just yet, but I can backflip off of you. And now we can run. Now we can sprint. Alright, this next mini-boss here is actually 2 mini-bosses. You don't see the first one right away. Or you don't see the second one right away, but you do see him now. And now that they're both dead, we're free to go. Yeah, and he also had... the mini-boss also had someone in front of him. That was the namesake of this dungeon, Brayflox. Now we got a little swamp run here. And we get our way to mini-boss number 3. And I did say 3. Yeah, this is one of the rare instances of a dungeon that has 3 mini-bosses. There aren't many instances of this taking place, but this is one of them. Yeah, and that mini-boss you also saw, he got crushed underneath the weight of a giant dragon that decided to crash the party. And he's the actual final boss. Now we can start running through these guys. And now we have a clean line to the final boss. Final boss is interesting in the fact that this guy has a very gross mechanic. As the fight progresses, under normal circumstances, he will start puking at random party members, and if he himself is standing in his own vomit, it will actually heal him. Thankfully, we can kill him off so fast that he never gets to puke. Alright, off to our next side dungeon, Sunken Temple of Karn. Now, Sunken Temple of Karn is another dungeon that, under normal circumstances, is very mechanic heavy. Because there are certain enemies that you have to kill in certain ways, and if you don't do it that way, it'll just take and make your run a lot longer and more frustrating. So, in this first section, the thing that we need to prioritize killing are the bees. If we don't kill the bees, these things can actually have the ability to use an ability called Final Sting, which is essentially a kamikaze ability. And if allowed to be able to get it off, it just makes life very painful. So yeah, they have to die immediately. Alright, he's gone, and we're free to go. So now we're going to come up to an enemy that is one of those that is absolutely dependently needed to be killed a certain way. The avoirdupois here needs to die on the stone that it's standing on. If it doesn't die on the stone that it's standing on, it will respawn. You see that glowing pedestal that we just ran by? The avoirdupois need to die on those things. If they don't, they'll just respawn until you actually do it right. So it's very important that you do it that way if you're doing this normally. If you're doing it like I am, you don't need to bother with it. so now is this Temple Guardian, which is another mechanic-heavy boss, because you have to kill his Soul Stone first before you can damage him normally. But once you do that, once you break his Soul Stone, then you can damage him normally. So now up we go. We're gonna get out of the subterranean part and head back up onto the surface. We're free to go. Get a little sprint going. Alright, so now here we have to use the abattoir in the way that it's intended. Yeah, it's one of 2 points where it's an absolute necessity in this run. If you're doing it normally, you don't need to worry about it as much. Alright, so get him where we need him. Oh, he must have gotten pushed off by the enemies. Oh, what? That is actually a rare thing that can happen, is that one enemy can push off another. Yeah, the abattoir was right on it, and he got pushed off. Well, that's unfortunate. Well, thankfully, this can be dealt with quickly, thankfully. You're only losing about 10 seconds or so if he falls off. So now, since we did not do the normal mechanic, we have to fight these extra enemies. But we would have to be fighting a lot more if we did this normally. So now, moving on to the final boss, here the Adjudicator. And wow, he died in 2 crit hits. Yeah, that does not happen often, but thankfully we got it. Alright, next up is another side dungeon, Cutter's Cry. Yeah, the start of this dungeon is interesting because it has some required mechanics as far as you have to kill everything in a certain section before you can move on. But then after that, we're pretty much free to go. We'll pretty much be unrestrained after the first 2 sections of this dungeon. And get everything to come over. Oh wow, how did you survive that? Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. Where those bats are able to survive that attack I just used. That was very unexpected. Now we're free to go. Now we have to do the process all over again. Everyone together. There we go. And start casting. There we go. So now that that's taken care of, we're pretty much free to run. And run we will. So yeah, we can pretty much ignore a lot of these enemies now. And we can run over here to the first mini-boss, who, if you're fighting it normally, would call in a whole bunch of reinforcements that would heal her. Thankfully, we're able to one-shot her and we don't have to worry about that. Alright, so now we have to run through this section. Yeah, we gotta walk around these 2 lakes in order to get to where we need to go. Now, if we're quick enough, we should be able to jump into the sands before we get attacked. And we did. Now we repeat the process again. 1 and go. Yeah, that'll give us a decent enough head start. Successfully get through there, and then off to mini-boss number 2. Which, as the name implies, is a tunnel worm, which, if you can't beat him normally, he will burrow underneath. If you can't get through him quickly enough, he will burrow underneath. He actually does that a few times. But thankfully, since we're doing it the way we are, don't need to worry about it. Yeah, there are quite a few boss mechanics that can be completely ignored, but we will be coming up on a dungeon where a final boss has a mechanic that you absolutely have to prevent from happening. But that'll be for another couple of dungeons yet. So now we have this wide open area where we can pretty much run free. There's my sprints. And then once we get to this fork in the road, we hang a right. Yeah, run past this blue fire. Backflip off of the golem in order to get to our final mini-boss here, the Chimera, who comes with a lot of dangerous tricks up his sleeve, including having an ability that can do that. Yeah, he can either cast ice on you if you're standing too close to him, or lightning if you're standing too far away. He does have a tell. There will be a prompt that will tell you that this attack is happening or this attack is happening, and then you adjust your position accordingly. Alright, so we're now down to the final 4 dungeons, and the last of the required dungeons in the main story, the Stone Vigil. Yeah, Stone Vigil is probably, as far as storyline is concerned, one of the most intense stories that you have to get to in order to approach a dungeon. Just because of the people that live near here. And the people who live in this area actually have very important significance in the expansion for 3.0. So, like I said, we're doing 2.0, but there's also a 3.0 where you will be, if you ever get the chance to see it, the people who are dealing with this place and the variety of dragons in many shapes and sizes that inhabit this place, they have to deal with them, and they have to get them all dealt with, but only in their way. Like, they are not very akin to outsiders, so you have to put up with them and get through all their crap just to get in here. And it goes through quite a number of experience levels for getting access to that quest. That allows you to get into this place. Because you have to do so much. This guy just gets in range because he was running away from me. Okay, so now we got a very important section coming up, so I'm not going to say as much here just because of the fact that I need to perform a very specific mechanic. I need to hold on to my displacement because it's going to be essential for doing a skip up, and that's coming up in just a moment. Alright, backflip off him, and hope we gain enough to be able to open this gate in time. Just barely, yes! Yeah, that saves us a lot of time here. Now we can go and confront the final boss and really start to take our time here because, yeah, he will fly away. And while he's flying away, that gives you free reign to kill everything you see here. Yeah, look at all the enemies we accumulated. Yeah, we accumulated a lot of enemies. But it was worth it to be able to pull off that skip. Like, that is a hard skip to do. But if you can get it, it's so rewarding. Right. So the next 3 dungeons within 2.0 are all side dungeons. And each of them has their own interesting quirks. This one is the slowest of the 3, if for no other reason than the fact that you have to stand in certain places for certain amounts of time. So that can definitely give you an opportunity to kill any enemies that may be in your way. And so now we have pretty much an opportunity now to run to one of those blue circles. We're not going to stand in that blue circle because it's not required. But there are a couple coming up in this next section that I'm approaching that are required for me to stand in. So get everything to come my way. And now, I have to stay in the blue circle and wait for it to turn off. And then once it does, we'll have a opportunity to move over to that circle. So yeah, use that. Yeah, we're also intentionally building up our meter here. Yeah, I haven't talked about the meter that you've been seeing on the right side of the screen because we really haven't had much use of it yet, but that's my Aether meter, which is exclusive to Red Mage. What you do is every time you cast a spell, it builds up, and the higher it gets, you'll be able to pull off a more powerful sword attack. Also, okay, I could have sworn that this turned off. Okay, the game must be glitching. Because, yeah, that should not have happened. Yeah, that's gonna cost some time. Yeah, I could have sworn this was already turned off. Yeah, the game must have glitched on me. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, not much we can do about that. So as far as this all-seeing eye is concerned, we gotta wait for him to come into this purple light or else we cannot damage him. So we gotta let him come over. And finish him off. Come on. There we go. Yeah, he was really holding on there. Alright, so now we have to deal with a certain enemy here, this Nyx. That's going to give us problems if we don't deal with him right away. I'm also going to try and do another skip here. But it's all dependent on where the other Nyx are. Yeah, this one's right in my face. So yeah, can't go anywhere without dealing with him because if we don't... Whoa, they were like all in the worst spots possible. Yikes. Yeah, if we didn't deal with those guys, then they were going to give us problems later. Because they have an ability called Sticky Tongue that just launches you right into them. So you could be in the middle of fighting an enemy and then one of those Nyx will just come over and say, hey, I want to join the party, and he just licks you up. Which is gross, and it's also a huge time waster. Now we have to kill off these enemies and wait for the next boss to arrive, which is this guy. And once we get him down, we're free to go. Alright, so now we have the blue circles again that we have to deal with. Yeah, best to get those guys out of the way. Especially since I can use sprint the moment I can to run over to the other side. And then we can use these guys. Then use my magnification to automatically double my ether meter. Now we have to chill out, wait for that to stop, and we are free to go. So now we are able to go right to the final boss. But we will get to have free reign on killing some enemies along the way. So now this enemy, this boss here, I need to work quickly in order to kill him, or else he will go invincible. And we got him. Yeah, if you allow him to stay alive for long enough, he'll use those crystals over there to be able to go invincible, and then you have to disable the crystals to be able to inflict damage on him again. Alright, next up, the Aurum Vale, also known as the Rage Quit Dungeon. This dungeon in particular, to this day, even though it's a level 47 dungeon and these days the maximum experience level is level 70, people still rage quit this dungeon on a regular basis, and it's all attributed to the first section of this dungeon because of how close all the enemies are, and they can just absolutely frustrate you to the point where you can get all these enemies piling on you so quickly and you can get overwhelmed in a heartbeat and everyone gets killed off. Thankfully, we were able to deal with only a minimum number of enemies. And now we can finish off what's here. And rough. So yeah, I'll have enemies following me the entire way. But that's nothing compared to what we're going to be dealing with next. Probably are familiar with the Marlboros from previous Final Fantasies, best known for their bad breath ability that can absolutely completely screw you over. Well, they're in this game too, and they are the prominent bad guys in this dungeon. So yeah, they definitely can be a real pain. Now we can deal with this mini boss. Pull him over here. Yeah, get perfect opportunity to let everything stack up so we can kill them. Oh, he's not giving up very easily. Yeah, he's just refused to quit. Yeah, he usually doesn't take that many hits to kill. He was really holding on this time around. Alright, so now we're gonna have a section here where we have to kill 2 of those Marlboros slash Morbulls. They are officially called Morbulls in this game because I guess Marlboro Tobacco was like, enough is enough, Square Enix. Quit naming ugly creatures after our products or something. And so now, away we go. We're going to ignore these guys because I have something in store for the final boss here. And this should come as no surprise that it also is a Marble. Yeah, we'll try and get rid of the Miser's Mistress, but she's trying to get away. But we won't let that happen, not on our watch. Ouch. Yeah, that guy was determined to see that attack through. Yeah, knock his lights out. Alright, it's time for our final dungeons, the Wanderer's Palace. Wanderer's Palace is quite interesting within this game because for people who have not seen them in other Final Fantasies, this game is, or this dungeon rather, is the primary home of the Tonberry, which you probably, if you have seen other Final Fantasies that have them, they're the little green gremlins who walk around with a lantern and a knife. And they come around and you have to deal with them because they have an ability called Everybody's Grudge that can just absolutely mess things up for you. But in this game, like, Tonberries, yeah, you do have to fight them here, but they actually have a significant amount of lore in this particular game, especially here in Wanderer's Palace. So we'll get all these guys to come up towards us, and then we'll kill everything together. Alright. Let's start wearing them all out. Yeah, we need to kill them in order to get those doors to open. Oh wow, really? Held on with 1%? Well, he'll get his soon enough. Now go down there, boss. There we go. Yeah, it's never easy when you're dealing with the guys who just love to tough it out as much as possible. Alright, so now we need from the Tonberries their lantern oil, because the oil is going to be important for where we're going next. So yeah, we'll get these guys to come my way. And now we can start get everything dead at once. Because we will need these Tonberries, like I said, for their oil. Yeah, we need a total of 3 flasks worth. Also disregard that prompt you saw on screen. That only is important if you're doing this dungeon normally, because there's a giant blue Tonberry, and there are actually multiples of them, that will chase you relentlessly, and they cannot be killed. So you have to put up with them. If you get too close to them, they'll just start stabbing you for a lot of damage. Alright, so once I get my sprint back, it's going to be important that I have it, because this next part is a speed element. So once we get these soldiers of Nim dead, yeah, now we're going to hit the sprints. We are going to need to use it. Now we gotta kill the Nimians real quick. Alright, now I only need to pick up 1 flask of oil here. Yeah, we want to try and kill these guys and then get this guy dead before his blue Tonberry friend comes over. If he gets too close, we can't touch this device until we move far away enough that he goes away. So yeah, now he's close enough that he'll chase us, but he'll stop pursuing, because yeah, he's just protecting his territory, so we want to make sure we avoid dealing with him at all costs. Now we'll go ahead and hit this device and say hello to some more Final Fantasy IV themed food slimes. In this case, a Babawa. He's done, and we're free to go. So get these 3 to come with me. Because, yeah, we will need some more of the lantern oil that the Tomberries possess, but not all of them have it. And we'll run all the way to the door. And let's start killing everything. Almost got these guys. Yeah, you just don't want to go down, do you? There we go. Alright, get 2 more flasks of lantern oil, then use them on the 2 rusted Nimian devices, and then that'll take us to the final boss. Time will stop after I have successfully left the dungeon. So once the final boss has been defeated and I leave the dungeon, that will be time. And so, since this place is all about the Tomberries, naturally we have to deal with our king here at the end. We'll just go ahead and cut into him. And he's dead. There we go. Leave the dungeon, and that is time. Yeah, that was not my best run so far that I've had, but I can't really complain too much about a 1 hour 4. Like we did have a couple of issues in terms of some glitches occurring and things not quite going the way I wanted them to, but I'm still satisfied with the run. It was still well below estimate. And so it was definitely a great opportunity to come back and run for North American Speedrunners Association, get to do another marathon with them. And speaking of which, I will be doing this again for their live marathon next month. So we'll be doing more stuff with them, with North American Speedrunners Association. So thanks to NASA for allowing me to do this run for you guys. It's been quite a run for me doing various speedrun marathons. This is actually the 5th run for marathon that I've done in the last 2 months, and I've got 2 more coming up. So it's been a very busy time for me doing speed runs. It's so much fun for me to get to do this for an audience, and I'm so glad that you guys had fun and enjoyed it. Certainly, by all means, come follow me on Twitch, YouTube. If you're ever interested in picking up this game for yourself, we do have a guild/free company called Tales of Eorzea, spelled E-O-R-Z-E-A. So we certainly hope that you'll come and join us and have some fun. So now that this is all done, I have a very important task to do, and that is go get the true ending in Hollow Knight, which will certainly take me the rest of the day for sure. So thanks everyone for watching. Enjoy the rest of the marathon, and as they say in the game, may you ever walk in the light of the crystal. Thanks everyone.